So hi guys, I'm doing this video on how to replace the brakes and the rotors on a Volkswagen Golf. So you can see it's a Volkswagen Golf, it's a Mk7, it's a 2015. It's just one of the standard models. It's a decent car, just bottom spec, nice car though, can't go wrong. This car, it's done, I think we're up to 120,000 kilometers on the car. So I checked the brake rotors, there's a bit of a big mark in it, so they really look like they need doing, and the brake pads are a bit low, so time to get them changed. So I went to a mechanic and got a quote to get this done by a mechanic. The mechanics quoted me $640 to do it, and I figure $640 I can do myself for, obviously if I do it myself I can do it for far cheaper, and that means I've got some money left over to go and buy myself some nice tools. So first things first, what do you need for this job? Let me show you what you need. Okay, so first thing, you need to get your jack. Of course, if you don't have a little trolley jack like that, just use the standard one that comes in the car. You need a socket set. You definitely need a socket set. You will use a spanner. You'll use the size 17mm spanner. So get the spanners out. In order to take your calipers off, you use one of these things, these little star whatever things they call, little things, whatever they are, not too sure, I am not no mechanic. You will need to use a brake bar. There's a couple of nuts on there on the calipers that are really hard to get up, so you will need to use that. Now I've got a long screwdriver that will help me turn the brake discs, turn the brake rotor a little bit, which helps a little bit, and that's all you need. The other things that I've got is got a pair of gloves just to stop me from getting loads of trash on my hands, and I'm not changing into any working clothes, so I'm going to throw that boiler suit on. So yeah, this is a pretty straightforward job. So first job, let's get the car jacked up. Okay, so do not fully jack the car. You don't want to take the wheel full off the ground, because you've got to unloosen your wheel nuts first. So I'm just going to go do that now. Okay, so the wheel nuts on the Golf, they're 11/16 or they're 17mm if you're using Imperial. I use a socket, so I find it's a lot easier to do it. If you use the standard tool, that your little wrench that you get with your car, obviously they're just trash to use, and it's easy. You mark your wheels far more on them, so just use your sockets, they're a lot easier. So I'll just loosen all of these off. Okay, so I've loosened them all off. If you find any of them are hard to get off, just use your breaker bar. It's so much easier. Sometimes you find your wheel nuts are really stiff and you're really hard to get them, but if you've got a long breaker bar, it just makes it so much easier. Okay, now that I've loosened them, I'll jack the car up fully. So we just need to jack the car up, jack it up and get the wheel off the ground. So you can see it here. There you go, you can see the wheel's coming off the ground. I'm just going to take it a little bit higher so you can see it's fully off. There you go, it's off the ground. So it's all good, the wheel's off the ground, so I can take that wheel fully off now. Now fully take these off. And now I'm going to take this off. Okay, so I've taken the wheel off, keep it close by, and you can then use it somewhere to sit on. Makes it easier so you're not sitting on the floor all the time. Okay, so what are we doing now? So this job, first things first, we want to take the brake caliper hub or whatever you want to call it, take this thing off here. That's held on by these two nuts here. So there's one nut there and there's another one here. I believe that is a, what is that? I think it's a size 13. It is. It's a 13mm, so I use the 13mm for that. I said you needed a socket. You do need a spanner on here as well. You need a spanner to hold this little nut here in place. Sorry, hold that in place while you take that bolt off there. So that's what you need for that. So I'm going to do that, pull that off, then I can get the brake pads. and I can pull the brake pads out, so that's super simple. So let's get that done. Okay, so guys, I'm just going to I'll take this bolt off. So what you do is, when you're untightening it, make sure you put this spanner on top of the little bolt there. You can see that little nut. So put that there, because otherwise that starts moving, and then we're going to pull this off. Sometimes this is really tight. You definitely need a socket set doing this, otherwise it can slip a lot easier. You probably don't need the extension on this one, so I'll just do this here. I've got lots of space. If this is super tight, you will have to get your wrecker bar in it, but this one's usually not too bad. This one, you see, this is actually super easy. So loosen that off. So that's loose, that's hand. I'll move that with my hand now. So I'll now do the one on the bottom here. It's exactly the same. And that one was super easy. It's probably because I've taken it off before. So I'm now just going to pull those out. Right there, don't lose it. Take the top one off as well. Around there. Right, and now I'm ready to pull this caliper off. Pull it off. Just carefully pull it off. And once you've got it, I want to get this out of the way. So the easiest place to get this out of the way is to hook it up and put it on top of there. Now that is out of the way. I don't have to worry about that now. I want to make sure that this doesn't fall, so I've just got a bit of roll, kitchen roll. I'm going to use this to wrap around here and just to stop this from falling. So I'll just tie this off. Last thing I want is this falling and whacking me as I'm doing the job. I'll just show you there. Tied off in a bit of a knot. There you go. That's not moving anywhere. Perfect. That's tied up and out of the way. So now I can pull these brake discs off. So I'll get a little screwdriver and just pull those off. See, there's a little clip here. In fact, this will just literally there pull off if I just wedge them out. See, one clip. You can see that's so easy. These pads, you can see, they are getting pretty low, very low, so it's definitely time to replace these. They would probably have about a few thousand kilometers left on these if you did keep on driving on them, but yeah, it is time to get those replaced. So I pulled one off. It's exactly the same for the one around the back. You can see there's the pad. The lever off. You have to do the small screwdriver. Right, so that was off. Throw those aside. Okay, so next job we need to get the brake discs off. Looking at these discs, you can see how the pads over time they've really scored the brake disc, the brake rotor, the brake disc, whatever you want to call it. You can see it's indented here, so you could get these machined down where they just take off, flatten them all off and make them perfect again, but they're not that expensive and probably don't want to get them too deep. So I'm going to replace them. They were only $100 each to replace these, so we're going to put these on. So so to get this next piece of the caliper off, there are two bolts holding it on. You can see there's a bolt here, and there's another one around the back, just here. So we've just got to undo these two bolts. These are the two bolts which are really stiff to try and first get them off, which is why you will definitely need your breaker bar. So I'm just going to get those off. Okay, so this is a 13 by 16 socket you need. Okay, so these are the two bolts. They're really tough, really hard to get off. Get this. That's why you need your wrecker bar, your breaker bar, whatever you want to call it. So loosen it, so that's loose now, so that's good. Get the top one. That is extremely tight. Finally goes. There we go. It goes. So now that it goes, I can take it off easy. Undo these bolts. There we go. So take those out. On. As you can see, if you wear gloves, you don't get rubbish and black oil and tar on your hands. Keeps you a lot cleaner. Okay, simple as that. Pull that off. Okay, so we now need to just take the brake disc off. The only thing that's now holding it on is that little nut there. Okay, it's taken off. Let's keep that somewhat safe. Okay, so now this thing should come off now. This should pull off, but it's usually pretty tight, so we need to get a mallet and whack it. Okay, so I'm just going to whack this off. So I'll whack it, and this is where I use my screwdriver. I can turn it around so I don't need the screwdriver. If it's a bit tight, then use your screwdriver and then pull it around. You can feel it going. You can hear that going as well. There it went, so there it is. Let's off this for a second. So you can see on here, look at the little lip. You can see it's ground away. So here it is pretty much time to get that replaced. It's not looking too great, look at that. Bit of a chavel off there, that doesn't look too great. As you can see the other side. Time to definitely replace them. Okay, so we'll get rid of this one. What we will need to, before we put them back on, is we'll need to clean all of this up. So get a wire brush and we'll clean all this down. So clean it all down. We'll give it a bit of a clean while we're doing that. Okay, so we're just going to wire brush it all down. I've got this decent wire brush. I also bought a little pack of wire brush. These little minor ones are like $4, cheap as anything. They'll come in handy to get it in the little corners, hopefully. Clean it off. Get rid of, what's this car, 2015, so it's 6-7 years worth of rust and grime that's on it. Okay, so this is the replacement disc that I've got. Replacement disc, let's get this open. So when you're getting the replacement discs, measure your old one. So you've got to measure your old one from here to here. Measure it from here to here. You're also supposed to measure it from here to here. This distance here, and these ones, this distance here. So I understand on the Golf there's a few different sizes. There's the smallest size, which is this one for the front. This one's 288 from here to here. So it's a complete standard one. Just make sure you pick the right one. So here are the ones that I've got. Oh, they come with a new little screw. That's nice. These ones that I got, went to a local auto shop. They are supposed to be OEM quality. They say these are exactly the same as what the garages use. So you can compare them to the other one. You can see, yeah, they're exactly the same. Yeah, perfect fit. They're exactly the same. We've got the right ones. These were like, I think they were like $95, $100. They weren't too much. They weren't too bad. So we just need to put these on, put them in place. And you can see they fit on just perfectly. Look, they're so clean and nice. Put them on there. And we'll get that load screw that they gave us. As you can tell, it's falling off now that it's clean. Let's use their little screw, bolt, whatever you want to call it. And that just holds this in place. Tighten this up. Okay, job, and so we've got the new discs on. That was as simple as that. Get the box out of the way. We now need to put this caliper back on. So whilst we've got the caliper, let's clean that up. So we'll get the wire brush out again. Let's give it a good clean. Okay, so it's good to give these a good clean. As I say, give them a really good sand down. These little wire brushes have come in handy, because when you're cleaning these little nooks and crannies, it is handy having a little bit of a smaller wire brush. So for the $4 that it cost me for the pack of 3 of these, I'm definitely glad I bought them, because there's a lot of build-up of dust and rubbish on here. And I'm guessing if there's loads of dust on it when it's operating, that's probably what would cause it to get stuck and wouldn't make it work perfect. So yeah, give it a good clean down. So I think that's pretty good now. I reckon pretty much right to put back on now. So we'll get these back in place. Back in place. There we go. Yeah. So we go there, and we get the bolts. Put the bolts back in. One in, second one in around the back. I'll turn up. So I'm just finger tightening it first, and then I'll go around the back and tighten up fully with the wrench. Okay, so that's tight now. Okay, so I'm just going to tighten this up. Okay, that is tight. That's ridiculously tight. Same with the top one. And that is tight. So that is completely solidly back on now. Okay, so we now need to get the brake caliper. Now that this caliper holding thing, whatever you want to call it, that's on solidly, we can get this back on. So I'll untie it and get it ready and pull it down. Right, problem here that we have that we need to sort out is the piston here, or whatever this thing is. That is when your brake pads go smaller over time. Obviously, when you put your foot on your brake, this pushes it out. So this has been fully pushed out. So we now need to push it back in. So first thing that you want to do in order to push that back in is you want to take your brake fluid cap off so that it releases the pressure. So I'll just shove this back on here, and we'll go and release the pressure. Okay, so we're gonna, as I say, we're gonna just release the brake fluid reservoir. So it's here in this corner here. Pull it off. Just take the cap off and shove it there. That will then release the pressure through here, and you will see your brake fluid go up as you can see the brake fluid's up to there. So it's going to push that brake fluid up as we push that caliper back in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a cloth, and I'm going to wrap a cloth around here just in case it starts overflowing, because I don't want brake fluid overflowing going everywhere. So I'm just going to go get a cloth, shove it over there. So I'll just wrap this cloth around there just in case some starts spurting out. Not too sure whether it will do, but we'll keep an eye on it. At least if it does, hopefully we'll catch a fair bit of it, so it won't go everywhere. That's done. Okay, so let's get this back. As I say, we need to push that piston. So I've just got some clamps. Let's shove some clamps on it. And it should slowly push it in. It's always easier if you have some decent clamps. Unfortunately, these are not decent clamps. Okay, so the pads that I've got for these, you see the back, see the box, I got Melee. Apparently these are, again, OEM parts. So you can see the part number on these is 0252568 The ones that I previously bought on this were Bendix ones. The old ones that were on that put on previously. I probably did about 60,000 K on these. As you can see, these are identical, just as good. So I previously bought the Bendix Euro. I think they were, you can see the part number on there. I don't know whether it's exactly the one. But yeah, these should be a good one. So we'll get these back on. So I'll put these in. You can see there's a little clip. Now that I've cleaned up all the caliper, clips in there really easy. It just does the same at the bottom. Just clips in. And it's as easy as that. It's super easy. Clipping in like that. And then we do exactly the same on the back one. It's hard for you to see here, so put on that side. Put the bottom in. Hopefully you can see this. There we go, clip them in there. So they're all ready. So they've got them back on. Now we need to obviously get this caliper, we need to make sure we get this caliper and get it over the top for them. So the caliper needs to be, you can see it needs to be squeezed back quite a lot so that we can get it back on. Okay, so the easiest way I've found is to get the caliper in is shove a piece of wood over the top of it and use your clamp. Shove a piece of wood over the top of it, use a clamp and slowly just lever it in. And it is tricky, but it will go in. It will go in. And as you can see, now it's fully gone back. So the caliper's gone fully back. So now I can get it over the top. Get it back over the top and it fits perfectly over my brake pads, and I can fit it on perfectly. So right now, before I put it on, I'm just going to give it a bit, now that this is out the way, I can give it a bit of a clean up. So just get the wire brush again, get rid of some of this dust and rubbish that's on there. So I'll just give this clean up, and this is where those little brushes come in handy. So I'm very glad I bought those. As you get all this dust, of course this is just going to be completely on your dust pads, and this is, I'm guessing, what this could easily cause it to start sticking or making a noise or causing a squeaks. You just got all this trashy dust everywhere. It goes in between your pads, and I'm guessing it can't do it any good. I'm certainly no expert, but it sounds reasonable to me. So I'm just going to say give it a good clean everywhere. I'll put it on now, so at least I don't have to keep on holding it in this tricky angle. Put it on, get the screws and nuts, which are around here somewhere. Here we go. Put it back in place. There we go, it's held in place. So at least I don't have to hold it anymore. Put one in. They're in finger tight. And then I'll finish giving this a bit of a clean. Okay, so we'll finish off just tightening these up now. That's tight. Let's do the bottom one. Okay, so once that's tight, this is now ready to put your wheel back. And you can see that is loose there. The reason why that is loose is because, of course, you saw I pushed the caliper fully back, which means there's now a huge amount of give in it. So as soon as I put the brakes on, this will tighten the whole thing up. So this is pretty much ready. It's ready to put the wheel back on as soon. I'll finish off tightening that up, but I've got some brake cleaner to give it a bit of a spray. So now everything's perfect and clean. And that is the job nearly done. Nearly done. Okay, so it's all tightened up now, it's all ready. I'm going to put the wheel back on. So as you can see, it's so much easier putting these wheels on if you use a spanner. Sorry, a socket set like this. So much easier. So there, on tight. And there we have it. So as you can see, brand new pads, brand new rotors on, job done yourself. Looks perfect. So that's one side done. So you need to finish off doing the other side. The other side is exactly the same. The only slight difference on the other side, you do have a sensor on the brake pad, which is what shows you whether your brake pad is getting worn on your dashboard, where it shows you your brake pad warning light. So other than that, it's just, it's exactly the same as the other side. So I'll start doing the other side. As you can see, I've jacked the car up, undone the wheel, pulled the wheel off, get it out of the way. Leave the wheel here so I can sit on it, makes it nice and easier. As you can see, these are exactly the same. The only difference is you can see there's the sensor. This one has a sensor at this side, so the driver front has the sensor on it. So the only difference between this and the other side is I've got to unclip that one, unclip the sensor, and the back pad has to be clipped in. So it's exactly the same. So I'll start this job. So first things first. Take this off, brake caliper back by undoing that bolt there and that bolt there, which is, I believe, a 13mm bolt, and use the 7mm spanner to hold that in place so that this doesn't move when you're untightening that. So I'll do that. So I've now taken the bolts off. I can now pull this caliper off. So I pulled it off, and I shove it up on top of there, and I'll go and get a rag and just tie that off so it doesn't wobble off, just to make sure it's safe and out of the way. There we go, it's all off. So as I show you this caliper, as you can see, the caliper, can you see it will need pushing fully back in. We'll do that a little bit later. Okay, so I'll take the old pads out. Pull them off, and you can see, interesting on this side, look, there's a heck of a lot more tread left on that. There's far less tread on the other one. We see the tread on the other one. The other side, look at the tread, there's hardly any tread left on that. There's a lot more on this one, so it looks like it was wearing a little bit unevenly. Interesting. Not too sure why. If you're a mechanic and you know why, give me your comments. That's one side. Pull the other one off as well. pull it off. You can see this one is the one which has the sensor on it. So I'll need to unclip that sensor first. It can be a bit of a pain, so I'll give it a try. I'm just going to shove it temporarily back. Shove it there. Put the camera down while I get this done. Okay, so to get this brake sensor off, it's really fiddly. I've just mucked around with it for ages. So let me show you in the box in the brand new one. So in the box in the brand new one, you can see that's the clip. That's what it looks like. And this is what it clips onto. This is what they show you. So that goes into there. You can see they've just got like this, it's like a little clip on the inside that holds it into the hole, which you can't really see, but you can't see very well. You can just a tiny bit there. So you basically have to push that down, push it down, and this comes out. So if you push a screwdriver into there, that should allow you to pull it out, and it clips in. So now looking in the car, it's exactly the same. It should just pull out, but it was as tricky as anything. It was really hard for me to pull out. So if we look around the back, you can see it is just that little clip there. You can see there is an area pulling out, so it should be, but seemed to be a bit fiddly. So you will end up mucking around with that for a while. It's the hardest thing I've found, or probably one of the hardest things I've found so far of doing this job, which is pretty crazy to say that that's one of the hardest things. Okay, so we've done that. Likewise, we'll now do the two bolts that hold on this. We will need that breaker bar because they're on ridiculously tight. Once we've taken this off, do the same thing as we did the other side. Unscrew this little screw and then belt this with a mallet. So we'll do that. Okay, so as you can see, I've pulled this off, pulled this thing off. It's time to give it a good clean. This wasn't not as dirty as the other one, but you can see there still is a fair bit of dirt, so give it a good wire brush down. Just clean all these points, clean all these bits here, because this is where your brake pads fit into. So if you don't want your brake pads to stick, make sure you clean them, clean the whole thing down. So I'll give it a good wire brush everywhere now. Okay, so there we have it. They're the parts of the brake caliper that I've cleaned up. I can guarantee you that when you take it to the mechanic, he will not clean it as good as if you do it yourself. I've spent about 5-10 minutes cleaning it all up. Just getting the wire brush, cleaning it down everywhere. And that looks, I reckon that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. And I would definitely, I'd put my money on the fact that the mechanic, if you take it to a mechanic, he will not do as good a job as you would do yourself, because you're gonna, of course, you really invest in your own car, you care about your own car, so you'll make sure it's right. And I can guarantee that your mechanic will charge you for doing it, but he won't do it as good as what you will do. So anyway, it's all cleaned up. That's ready for me to put back on once I've got the disc off and put a new one on. So right now, so we're just going to take off that little screw, take the screw off, and then, like same as the other side, we're just going to get a rubber mallet and we're going to whack it off. As you can see, this brake disc, brake rotor, it looks pretty trash. It's going to look good with the new ones. So I'll get the rubber mallet on it, and this one, because I actually have took this one off before, came off ridiculously easy. So I pulled it off. Right now I'm going to give that a good clean up as well. I have not cleaned that. So I'll get the wire brush out and clean that all down. Okay, so pulled off as you can see, I pulled off the brake disc. I'm now going to give this brake caliper a good clean up. I'm going to give it a good clean up, then I'm going to push that back in similar to how I did the last one. So you can see there's just so much. I'm giving it a little bit of a clean there, but you can see this. You get so much brake dust build up and just dust that sticks to it from being on there for years. Of course, you know, this is going to be the second time I've replaced the pads on this car. It's done 120,000 kilometers. So this is, I don't think I gave it a good clean the last time that I did it. So a lot of this really needs a good clean. But yeah, it looks alright. Okay, so it's time to put on the new discs. Got them here in the box. Open them up. As I say, I'm not a mechanic, but I rang around and these ones came recommended. They're supposed to be OEM and they look pretty good to me. It's certainly not, they're not race quality, but hey, this car is a 1.4 litre engine, so they don't need to be amazing. It's never gonna do any race in this car. It's just a family car, so it won't be really abused. So these will be fine for it. So I'll get these on. So we can see, put them on. All they are is just held in with that little screw there, because they don't need holding in anywhere else. Because when you put the wheels on, you're bolting everything together. So it's making it super tight then. So you don't need anything to hold this on at this point. The only thing that the screws are really doing is keeping it tight whilst you're putting the caliper on. So yeah, not a lot of other use for it. So it all looks good, looks nice. Okay, so the next job now is to get this caliper, get that squeezed back in. So as I say, I'm going to use the clamps again. I'm going to put a piece of timber on it and just clamp it with the timber. So the last side was a bit of a pain. I think this is one of the of the two hard things of this job, this is definitely one of the hardest ones. That and getting that silly clip out, but it's not too hard. So hi guys, so when you are pulling in this caliper, when you're pushing it back in, the easiest way I've found to do it is you put a piece of timber in, put a clamp in here, and then you can then lever it and then push it in really easy. Just use the piece of timber as a leverage action, and it pushes it up. But when you do this, you've got to be careful, because if you look at your brake fluid, when you start pushing this in, it will make your fluid come out the top. So I'm pushing it in, and if you have a look there, you will see the brake fluid start rising up. Should be rising up, slowly rising up. So if it rises to the top, you need to get a cloth and stop it from leaking everywhere, so that it doesn't go all over your car. So as you can see now, that brake caliper has been pushed fully down. So I'm going to get this part back on, screw it back on. There's those two big bolts that go through there, so I'll push it back in. Okay, so we've got the caliper back on, got it completely bolted back on. You can see that bolt there at the bottom's been attached it fully back on, so that is solid as anything. I used the breaker bar to make sure it was super tight, so it's on solid. Now I can now I can put the brake pads in, put the rear brake pad, clip that in with the sensor. As you can see here, my new brake pads, all the brand new ones. There's the little sensor. I'll get them in. So I've put the brake pad in. You can see there, I've put it in, clipped it in. I'll show you, I'll put the front one in. And what I can tell you, when you clean this up, when you can fully clean the caliper up, it makes this so easy. They clip in so nice and freely. I remember the last time when I did this, I did not clean it up anywhere near as much as I have done this time. and it just did not go in well at all. It was just hard to push in, and it was because there's all the trash on it, all the muck and the build-up here was stopping it from going in right. So when you clean it all up, it works perfect. So now it's time for me to put the big caliper over the top of it, bolt it on, and then we are pretty much good to go. Okay, so I've now got the calipers over the brakes, and that is pretty much the job finished. All I need to now do is just shove the wheels back on, shove the wheel on, and the job is done. So you can see it was pretty straightforward, so I'll just get the wheel back on. Okay, so the wheel's back on. So guys, there you have it. So the job is now finished. Got the new rotors on, got the new pads in, and they're looking perfect, absolutely perfect. That looks so much nicer. Looks nicer there, obviously the brand new ones. These are on my rear, that's what the old one looks like. And you can see, you know, the old one that I replaced it with, yeah, it was just looking a mess, really. I think it was time. So as I say guys, you can do this job easily yourself. You can easily do it yourself. I was quite $640 as I said. The parts cost me, I think it was $270, so well under $300. You know, I saved quite a few $100s doing it, which meant I could spend a couple of $100s on some nice tools, which was like a bit of a bonus for me doing the job. And when you do it yourself, you know you do it right because you take care. You take care in the job because it's your own car. So yeah, the car's looking pretty well. I just need to, I'll put the brake fluid cap back on and pop the bonnet, and what I will do is I'll take the car for a quick spin, just to make sure that the brakes are bedded in nicely and making sure that they're working okay. I would recommend you drive it just a little bit carefully for the first couple of 100 kilometers on it, just to make sure that the brake pads are sitting right. And if you feel any squeaks or anything like that, you want to check whether you have done anything wrong, make sure you have got it in right. But it's an easy job, so I'd be really surprised if you ever get anything wrong on this. So guys, hope you enjoyed the video. I hope that this has given you the confidence of doing it, and shown that any person can easily just do this job themselves. It's not something that you have to take it to a mechanic to, and if you do it yourself, you're going to save yourself a heck of a lot of money doing it. Thanks for watching guys.